Hi there.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Since the election, you've had nothing to do though, right? It was all stopped then.
Yep, that's it. I'm done.
What to do with your free time?
That's right.
He's
Drink from
looking
a fire
for it.
hose, apparently.
Aren't you looking for it, Heidi? You're looking for some free time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been a weird year anyway, so I like being busy.
Yeah,
That's the problem with 4-year Senate terms. You can't quit after 2 years, you're there. I'm
That's
not
true.
suggesting I'm not suggesting you won't love it. It'll just probably drive you crazy, like everybody else.
Stuart, you're not supposed to tell her that yet.
Well, honesty is important. Honesty
That
with
is
elected
true.
officials is very important. I've mentioned
Yeah,
this
I
before.
agree. I agree.
Tell me about you were a senator, were you?
No, I was much more important than that. I was a Metro Council member.
That's right.
And it's just a coincidence, no matter what my wife used to say, that they instituted term limits right after I served 3 terms. But that did happen that very year.
The other thing about that though is that running every 2 years, you take up so much of your time running, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You've got the better job for many reasons, but the 4-year term is a main part of it. You just don't have to always be running, or maybe not. I don't
Right.
know.
And the way that campaign finance is now, it's ridiculous. I mean, just how much money you have to raise to win a seat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, one of the many things we should change.
Yes. Unfortunately, with the Supreme Court and their long time, not just recently, but long time reluctance to put any limitations on much fundraising, and even expanding it to corporations and whatnot, it's going to be hard to change some of that, even by statute, even if the Tennessee legislature wanted to.
No, yeah, I think it's got to happen on a national level, and it will require much less division than we have now. So
Yeah.
I think we're going to be stuck with it for a while. I agree.
Yeah, definitely.
Citizens United was
That was it. Yeah.
certainly a turning point on all that.
Oh, absolutely. Corporations are people, even for purposes of that sort of regulation.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's very problematic. Well, I have been decorating a tree with my children intermittently in between doing stuff. And I love the smell of a real Christmas tree in the house.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't got one of those right now.
You're not going to do a tree?
No, probably not. I've got lots of stuff to put out, and I've put out a couple of things, but won't be doing the tree thing. It's just me living there, and my grandkids aren't going to be coming in town. So
Yeah, doing a tree is kind of a lot. That's a lot to do.
yeah,
I don't think I'd do it if I didn't have kids either.
Yeah, I'll go see somebody else's tree. That'll be good.
Looked to me like people's light decorations came up a little early this year. Maybe people were looking for some positivity.
Yeah, that was probably it.
So how many years did you serve on the council?
12.
Wow.
It was 87 to 99, and I actually was appointed to the Planning Commission right after that and served 16 years. So
wow,
my career has essentially been going to meetings.
Well, you were
very little time for paid work with all of that.
You were in a time of big change too.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of been the way Nashville's been for the past 2 decades in any capacity, but
yeah, lots of change.
Yeah, I grew up here, and I grew up in Green Hills, and we used to walk to Green Hills Market. You remember Green Hills Market?
Yeah.
And my parents had an account there where you just had a 4-number account, and you just tell them my account is, 1736 or whatever it was, and they'd say okay.
Whatever you
And-
want.
Yeah,
What street did you grow up on?
Lone Oak Road.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, we would leave home in the mornings on the summers and not come home until after dark, and my parents had no idea where we've been or where we were, and it didn't seem to be a problem. So, I mean, I would never do that now.
Nope.
Things are just so different. But Green Hills and Bandywood was just a street with little houses on it.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to wait a couple more minutes while people are joining us, and then we'll get going.
Great.
And Heidi, we've made you the co-host today.
Right.
If you do have something you want to put up on screen, just in case. Of
I
course,
do. Yeah.
okay, great. And I assume that you know how to do that because.
I assume I know how to. We'll see if that's the truth.
Okay. All right. Because we find that we think we know how to do it and it doesn't happen. So
Yeah, that's been my experience with myself as well.
yeah.
Just let me know when you're ready to get started. And
I'm going to introduce you and
okay,
tell everybody what to do about Zoom stuff, and then
great.
be just a second or two. One more minute, and then if they're not here, that they can just come in the middle.
Okay, yeah. All right, here. Okay, hold on a second.
Okay, for those of you who do not know, my name is Madeline Garr, and I'm the current president of the League of Women Voters Nashville. And it has been a tradition for the League of Women Voters here in Nashville to invite newly elected members to the General Assembly to meet the League and just get to know them and to hear what their positions may be, what they want to, what their dreams are. And this year, the only newly elected member is Senator Heidi Campbell. And so we got on the phone with her quickly and nailed down this meeting on Zoom. And so before I get into an introduction, which will be very short, of Heidi, I want to make sure that everyone mutes their Zoom on their computers or phones. And I believe it's *6 if you're on a phone to mute. And also, if you have a question, put the question in chat. And then after Heidi finishes her presentation, we can communicate. I'll be monitoring chat and communicate the questions. So Senator Heidi Campbell, or I don't know if it's Senator-elect, I'm not sure exactly how that works, but anyway, she was elected November 3rd, and she will be representing District 20. She, as you may have heard, grew up in Nashville, and I assume that means you were born in Nashville, Heidi? Is that true?
I moved here when I was 1.
You moved here when you were 1. And she is married and has 2 children. And I assume that they are home. And she's also now a part-time teacher as well as a full-time legislator. She received her MBA from Vanderbilt, and she worked in the music industry for a time and then saw some concerns and needs in her neighborhood of Oak Hill and ran for mayor and served as mayor of Oak Hill for 6 years. And she has served on multiple Davidson County boards, caucuses, and task force. And we are very grateful that she found the time to come here and speak to us today. So thank you, Heidi, and we're anxious and looking forward to what you have got to say.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I am also a member, and so I'm glad to be with you today and grateful for everything the League of Women's Voters does. I, just a clarification, served as vice mayor for 2 years and then mayor for 4 years. And I am looking forward. I've been two things. One is I am, I guess, the acting senator. And this surprised me. I didn't realize that the day after I was elected, I became the acting senator, and so I have been drinking from a fire hose. But it's been wonderful, and I'm really looking forward to serving with all my wonderful Democratic colleagues on the Hill. We have a great Senate caucus, and I guess I increased that by 20%, which which is pretty amazing with one seat, and you know, that's unfortunate. But we do have a good solid group of Democrats, and I look forward to working with Senator Yarbrough, Akbari, and also some of the wonderful reps. Representative Freeman was the guy that talked me into this, so I'm very much looking forward to working with him and kind of live politically in the same space that Representative Freeman lives in, having been the mayor of a purplish city. Fiscal responsibility is very important to me, and I'm also very concerned with a lot of the issues that I know my fellow Democrats are concerned about. And we are already in the process of developing a legislative agenda. And so I have put together a very brief slide presentation, and we will see if I am capable of sharing it with you. One thing I'm worried about is that this might take over my whole screen when I do it, but we'll see what happens.
Two.
No, oh, yes. Oh, but I still see you guys. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So this is the legislative preview of what we have going on right now. And of course, this is changing every day and does not include bills that I will be co-sponsoring and supporting with other legislators. One of the first things we're looking at is third-party ownership of solar projects. And part of the reason that I'm interested in this is environmental issues are of paramount concern to me. I think that there is nothing more important than addressing climate change and sustainability issues, because I believe if we don't have a habitable planet, then everything else is irrelevant. So realizing that I'm going into a supermajority that does not necessarily see this as a priority, what I intend to do is find opportunities for pro-business initiatives that happen to also be good for the environment. And this is one of those things. Apparently, this was sort of inspired by the fact that an auto plant tried to put a solar generator next to, or solar field next to their business, and wanted to fuel and also offset some of their carbon offset requirements through setting up this solar field. And we do not allow that in Tennessee because we consider that a utility. And that's primarily because it has to be established as a separate LLC and for tax purposes. And it just wouldn't make sense otherwise. And we do not allow third-party entities to provide power to any individuals or organizations in our state. And as such, what they did was they went ahead and set it up in a different state and just use the carbon credits that they are required to use to offset that. And that, of course, means that those jobs and that environmental benefit are not coming to Tennesseans. So the third-party ownership of solar projects is one bill that I'm working on to incentivize big companies with sustainability goals to relocate to Tennessee, and also to support the companies that we have here that are already trying to do that. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if, well, maybe we'll wait till the end and, yeah, maybe we'll wait to the end and have people ask questions, although it's a lot. So if people want that, I'll leave that up to you, Madeline. If you want people to ask questions during this, I'm happy to have them ask.
I think they can ask questions to the chat, and then
Okay,
and then that way we can start from the chat questions. I think that
Okay.
would work. Mhm.
sure. So the next thing that we're looking at, so we have HOV lanes. I was on the Transit Alliance, and for a great deal of time, we continue to labor over the issue of congestion, traffic, and roads in highways in this area, and really there are not a lot of great solutions. But one thing that's very problematic is that we have these HOV lanes and we're not in compliance, and we haven't been in compliance for a long time. And so I think it's very important that we reform that so that we can be in compliance. And there are several problems with that. One thing is Tennessee current HOV fines are the lowest in the country, and we're actually losing money on tickets when we write tickets after court costs. We're losing money. Our tickets for HOV violations are $50. So one thing to do would be to increase fines, and also we don't post fines. And what happens when we're out of compliance is that we lose federal funding. And so I am working on a vehicle lane reform bill. And once again, as with the solar thing, I think that this could possibly have, I am concerned about the environmental issue, and also the congestion issue that we have with traffic. But I also think that this can be something that could appeal to people in the rural areas, and people who are maybe not as concerned about those issues, because it would bring revenue in that would benefit the entire state, and it would also obviously assist people who are coming in and commuting into our county. So the next item that we're looking at is the Voter Confidence Act of 2021. We were a little hesitant to call it that because there's already been a Voter Confidence Act that was different, but I think that people on both sides of the aisle are concerned about the integrity of elections, and that seems to be certainly something that's very much of concern to Republicans right now. I'm getting a lot of emails from people who are under the impression that there's been incredible fraud committed in this federal election. But this would require any future voting systems that we purchase to produce a voter verifiable paper ballot. So it would not require people to change their systems now, but the next time that they update their systems, they would have to put systems in that produce a voter verifiable paper ballot. And I think that I certainly have appreciated that that's been going on in our county, because I think that there was some concern a few years ago about people hacking into voting machines, and I think we would all feel better if we knew that that there was this extra check in our voting system. So I think that that's another thing that is possibly something that could get bipartisan support. TANF reform gets mischaracterized as this administration sitting on a bunch of money. That there is a big, huge pool of TANF funds that isn't being accessed right now, and people are in very much in need of it. 1 out of 5 children in Tennessee live in poverty. And yet we have $741 million sitting in that fund that people can't access. That's not actually the fault of this administration. This administration gets faulted for it unfairly, I think. what happened is several years ago, there were some pieces of legislation that put bureaucratic hurdles in the way of people accessing those funds, that made it, quite frankly, just not worthwhile to go after these funds as an applicant, as a needy family, because those bureaucratic hurdles are so difficult. And mainly because the TANF, we have also the lowest TANF payout in the 49th. We're second to last in the country. So the monthly TANF payment is $245, and I think that we really need to address increasing that, not just because it would hopefully get rid of that bottleneck and give people the incentive to apply for TANF funds, but also because it's too low, and we need to put more money into taking care of our families, especially after what's gone on with this pandemic, and knowing that we have more families than ever in need of those funds. Medical cannabis, my predecessor, I'm sure you all know, was very much a pioneer of this type of legislation in our state. I think that this is something that we need to continue to pursue. Over 80% of Tennesseans are for legalized medical marijuana. Currently, 43 states have legalized medical marijuana. There are many, many reasons that this would be beneficial to our state, and not the least of which is opioid mitigation. So I very much support this, and will be putting forth my own legislation to suggest medical cannabis be legalized in the state of Tennessee. I released my first resolution today, urging President-elect Biden to award Dolly Parton the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I wanted to put a positive first step forward. The Presidential Medal of Freedom is there to honor people who have contributed to the security and greater good of our country in many ways. And there's no question whatsoever that Dolly Parton deserves that award. And President Obama recently opined that he regretted not having done so. So today we released a press release saying that that my first action was going to be to put forth a resolution to urge Biden to award Dolly Parton the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Legislation that we are watching and keeping an eye on, things that we're concerned about. Any legislation that undermines the distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine. I have been on I can't even imagine how many Zoom calls and conversations I've had with doctors over the past, how long has it been? 10 months, however long this pandemic has been going on, talking to them about how horrible this has been on the front lines. And I really do think that the leadership on this has been really unfortunate. A very, very strong approach on the front end would have saved us a lot of pain. And here we are, and many people have died. And I talk to doctors, as I said, every day who are frankly just really, really stressed out about the situation. And we have 8% occupancy left in our hospitals statewide, and the numbers are daunting, and we're one of the worst states in terms of how we've handled this. So any legislation that undermines the distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine will be something that I will be very concerned about. Any legislation that seeks to neutralize health boards, local health boards oversight is very disconcerting. And Representative Jason Zachary has certainly put something forth, and the real intent behind that is to prevent mayors and legislative health boards from being able to do things like issue mask mandates or social distancing guidelines. Also, I will definitely keep an eye out for any legislation that would allow permitless carry of firearms. I think that we need strong gun regulation and common sense gun regulation, and I will always be supportive of that. I'm a Moms Demand Action endorsed senator, I guess now. I was a candidate, and that is something that I think is a huge problem in our society. Any legislation that would allow deadly force to be used over property crimes for the same reason. Talking to unions, one of the greatest concerns right now is the constitutionalization of right to work, or amending our constitution to include right to work, which, it sounds wonderful, right to work, but what it really means is that unions will have to carry the cost and the burden of people who are non-unionized, and that's a problem for unions, and it's on the backs of our workers that this sort of legislation will inevitably land. And so I will definitely be opposed to that. It's a train that's just headed full force, and probably we won't be able to stop it. But one thing that I think might be a good argument against it right now is that maybe this isn't the time, that maybe we could wait a year, since we're coming out of COVID and we have such significant issues right now with people being out of work and everybody's financial concerns. So maybe that's kicking the can down the road, is at least a way that we can buy ourselves some time on that. But right now, that's headed full steam ahead. I will always be opposed to any legislation that threatens women's reproductive rights, and that could not be more of an issue than it is right now. So, and so that's something that you will always see me vociferously and unapologetically opposed to. And also the same with any legislation that targets the LGBTQ community. I see that as hateful legislation, and will absolutely be opposed to it. Shared legislative priorities will be COVID spread mitigation, any support for mask mandates. The Democratic caucus at my behest just issued a letter to Governor Lee encouraging him to issue a mask mandate, and any sort of legislation along those lines will certainly have my support. Also, we want to ensure that rapid testing is available, PPE, anything that expedites the process of getting help to our hospitals and our healthcare workers and the people on the front lines. Also, COVID economic impact mitigation. We're dealing with, I'd say probably the bulk of what I'm getting in my office right now are emails and calls from individuals who are having trouble getting CARES Act money. And so we are individually helping. I have a policy that we answer every phone call and every email. And so we are individually helping people through that. I'm not interested in sending them an email that just says, well, we got your message and that's great. And, we hope you figure that out. I really, really want to help these people. They are in big trouble and they need our help. So I think that that's not a good way for us to help our citizens, to have our legislators handling each case by case basis, each case on a case by case basis. I think that we need to have a more robust program for helping. There are only one or two individuals that are there to assist these people, and I think we need to increase staff and do everything we can to help all of these people who are struggling and in the process of losing their houses and all kinds of things. It's really, really heartbreaking, and we have to do everything we can to help them. To that end, the federal moratorium on evictions ends December 31st, and I think we need to do something about that, because we still have a lot of people that are facing eviction. And that the other problem with that is that landlords are going to have a problem going forward too. So we really need to address these issues, and so anything that catalyzes that, I will be supportive of. Education funding. we need to fully fund our schools in Nashville. And we have $1 billion shortfall, and we have a bad situation where we have the state kind of starving out the cities. There's a lawsuit that I was talking to Jim Rye of, I don't know if any of you know Jim Rye, but I was talking to him yesterday, and he was telling me that he thought that this had legs, and he certainly is an expert in this area. An adequacy lawsuit to basically say that it's inadequate that the state of Tennessee doesn't fully fund schools in Shelby County and Davidson County. So, there's hope for that on a legislative level. It's a Sisyphean battle to try and get our legislature to do something about this because it's political. But Tennessee is currently 46th in the nation for education funding, and we just simply have to address that. We don't pay our teachers enough. My hope had been that coming out of this, we would have more of an appetite for that because people have been at home and have been really realizing maybe for the first time what an actual role the teachers in schools are playing in their lives because they're having to be more intimately aware of their children's educational needs. But we'll see. We'll see if that is the case. My hope is that this will be an opportunity for us to actually make a case for fully funding schools in Nashville and increasing teacher pay across the state. Expansion of Medicaid is always something that I and all of my Democratic colleagues support, and moreover, something that there's an appetite for on the other side of the aisle. So maybe this will also be a time when we can actually make progress on that. Maybe if we, call it something else, that would help. I don't know. But that's something that we'll keep our eye on and definitely be supportive of as we move forward. I want all of you to know that as I said earlier, always answer every phone call and email. And you can also call me anytime. My cell phone is publicly available. This is my legislative assistant put this together, and she put my office phone on here. But I will share in the chat right now my cell phone number, and feel free to call me or text me unless it's like 2 a.m. If you have any issues that you care to tell me about or advice, or if you have pieces of legislation that you're interested in having us look at. I want to hear from you about what you think is important in our state and in our district as well. And so with that having been said, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
So right now, I thought put your questions in the chat box, if you would. And while you're doing that, I can start the conversation with Heidi. Heidi, you referenced the fact that it's a supermajority in the legislature, and you're grateful to be part of a Democratic super minority in the legislature. So how do you see reaching out across the aisle and working with others so that we can start to diminish the lack of communication that has developed over the last several years? What do you see as a new member with a huge hill to climb in terms of learning, how you can help affect conversations across the aisles?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great question. And so the very first thing I did when I got into my new office was called every single Republican senator and told them how much I was looking forward to working with them. I have also gone and sat in Janice Bowling's office and haven't been able to sit in other offices because nobody's there right now, partially because of COVID, partially because there was a bed bug situation in Cordell Hull, which is, a whole nother thing. But yes, I think that is the problem of our day, the problem of our time, the problem of our moments. And I have to find I have to throw out a very very fine needle between sticking to my democratic values and sticking with the caucus, and also working across the aisle as much as possible. And because we are in the minority, I think that that comes with, as I said when I mentioned that first bill, finding bills that have mutual benefits. So that bill is going to be framed, the solar bill, as a pro-business bill. And Republicans are very pro-business. And so it happens to be good for the environment. Finding things like that where, both of our values are addressed. And also just being collegial, being respectful. I am a member of a group called Braver Angels, and Braver Angels, I love them. Lynn Heidi, if you don't know her, heads up that group, and here in Tennessee. And it's a group of Republicans and Democrats that just get together in a very, very controlled format and discuss all of the issues that are so polarizing in a way that's respectful. And it's just required. And I'm not sure that any minds get changed, but what does happen is we humanize each other. And I think that is so important right now. I think that taking sides, especially if you're in the minority, doesn't get you anywhere. So that's a wonderful question. And all I can say is that I'm going to do everything I can to reach across the aisle, bridge any divides, and listen. Also just listen to what everyone else has to say.
Magdalene,
And as someone, yes, Sally.
Hello, Heidi. Thank you for your presentation. Education is such a concern for most of us on this call. The fact that Tennessee ranks so low is appalling. But the question is, where will state funds come from to provide the dollars needed to start improving education?
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you completely. It's I have a Maslowian disposition towards that. I feel like it's not just about education, it's about everything. And until we provide good education for our children, and fully fund our schools and take better care of our teachers, we're not taking care of our society and community as a whole. And so the answer to that question is we have funds to do that. It's a matter of priorities. And I think that things need to be reprioritized so that is one of the most important items on our agenda.
What's the current high priority?
I think that we spend a lot of money on issues that don't really help Tennesseans. I need to look at the breakdown, but we have a huge rainy day fund, and we're not. Now would be a really good time to open that up to offer some assistance to educators. But I think that intentionally, as I understand it, we're starved out of about $1 billion that could be going to our schools in Nashville every year. So I think it is political. That is a political thing. And I think that we need to make the case in a way that can actually be heard, hopefully, that has to stop.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just raise your hand and I'll see if I can see you. Anybody would rather just speak up for a question? Okay, so Debbie has this question. She says, for several years, the League has been actively involved with other groups in making it easier for former felons to have their voting rights restored. Have you any thoughts about how to get widespread support for this? And this is an important vision for the league. Yes.
Yes. Yesterday morning, I was at Dismas house. I don't know if you've been to Dismas, but wow. If you have not been and visited Dismas, I highly recommend it. It's such a wonderful organization for just helping formerly convicted felons reintegrate back into society. It's not really a halfway house. It's an interim house, I guess you'd call it. And wonderful facility that has been around in Nashville for a very long time. And restoration of felons' voting rights is a huge component of that. That's something that we really, really need to do. I know Vincent Dixie is working on that in the House, and I will, of course, always be supportive of any meaningful effort to do that. You know, I mean, one thing you find with some of this legislation is it says it's doing one thing, and that's really not what it's doing. So, you know, I'm not saying I'll be supportive of anything that says it's going to do that, but anything that would actually do that. So, so thank you for that question. And hi, Debbie. I don't see you there, but glad that you're here. Oh, there you are. Hi. So yes, that's a great question, and I will be supportive of that. I think there is widespread support, at least in Nashville and the cities, for that. I do not know. You probably know, Debbie, and you might even want to tell me if that's something that's supported across the state. I can't hear you.
Yeah. Okay, there. What I can tell you, Heidi, is that the League of Women Voters has worked with a number of groups during the last legislative session to advocate for some voter restoration simplification. In particular, we have been very concerned that Tennessee requires that former felons be current on their child care payments before they can have their voting rights restored. And that has never felt like that was a real measure of how you should look at voters, is whether they have that. So not to say that they shouldn't be current eventually, but you can't get out of prison and expect to have made up for the money that you need to pay for that. So that's certainly, but we have had support from a number of groups, including certainly the NAACP and certainly Project Return and the ACLU and other groups that have actively been working also to see that we can address this issue. It's particularly a large issue in our minority communities, particularly the African American community.
Well, if there's nobody carrying that in the Senate, I would be happy to look at being the senator to carry that. I'll make a note of it and have my office check into whether or not that is the case, and maybe check in with Vincent Dixie and Representative Dixie and see. But that's something that I absolutely support.
And we'd be happy to talk with you more with more details later. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Stuart, would you like to speak to your comment in the chat box?
I just put as a follow-up to what the senator was saying, noting that the majority of the legislature and the governor insisted on adding to our rainy day reserve fund last year, as they do every year. And we actually do have a theoretically fiscally sound state because of not spending money on issues and needs. But it seemed almost beyond belief that last year, knowing what we were facing and knowing how large our reserve funds are, that we would put millions and millions of dollars into it. And almost no bills got through last year that cost any money at all other than administration bills. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I did know that. I remember it happening. And also there was no COLA increase, which is just amazing. So especially considering what we're in the middle of. So you know, back to what Sally was saying earlier, just unbelievable that we don't have a cost of living adjustment for our teachers in the midst of this, which knowing how far behind we are on that. So, yeah, I know. I will be an advocate. I will be one more voice saying that this is not okay. So. Well, if there aren't any more questions, I just want to reiterate how much I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and how much I appreciate the League of Women Voters. You know, actually, when I first ran for office, Debbie Gould facilitated a debate in Oak Hill. And boy, if you know Oak Hill, that is not a small task. I don't know if she knew what she was in for because, you know, we have our share of drama. And and Debbie was amazing in helping us facilitate that. And it was probably, I think it was actually the most democratic and attended election opportunity that we had in our city. So ever since that moment, I've always had a great love and fondness for the League of Women Voters and for everything that we do, because I'm a member as well. And I really mean it. I'm not just being a politician when I say I want to hear from you. I really, really want to hear from you. I feel like I should probably schedule some time to talk to Stuart if you're available, because I can tell you have a lot of institutional knowledge about, you know, what's going on in our city and could maybe have a great conversation with you about how we see things going forward. So
I'm useful to talk to because I have great clients, and that's about it. But the league actually has some great doable priorities this year, and Debbie may want to go into some of those. I don't know, but it sounds like everything you're already for. that everything we have as a priority is something you already know about, and the question will be how to present it and how to make it get through in a legislature that is slightly tilts toward the not Republican side, the conservative side when it comes to new programs and spending money and other issues like that. So lots of time to discuss that. I was just wondering though, Debbie, I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I would add, and I, you know, certainly a lot of what you said are things that are very compatible with our priorities around elections and voting and so forth. But I guess I would sort of emphasize that even more dramatically to say that we really want to make sure that we expand accessibility to voting and to make it as easy as possible. And certainly we saw, for example, I mean, frankly, we thought that the elections in Tennessee went rather smoothly this year. And so it really demonstrated that it's possible to begin making things easier for voters, and that when that happens, that more people vote. And so we are very anxious to make sure that we take advantage of that, of those memories of a good election, and change laws to make this permanent rather than just a one-off for what we hope is a one-off for a pandemic. Surely we're never going to go through this again.
Well, I look forward to getting insight from you, especially on my Voter Confidence of 2021 Act, on how to best message that, having had the experience that you've had with the legislature. And, you know, my inclination has been to message that this is a good time to do that, because this is a very rare time when you have everybody concerned about integrity of voting for different reasons, you know, regardless of what those reasons are. It's a concern for everybody. And I'll reiterate that all the emails I'm getting right now, while there are some COVID vaccinations sterilize you and they're putting chips in your brain and people are tracking you kinds of emails, but the majority of the emails I'm getting are this is voter fraud. So I think election integrity is something at the forefront of everyone's minds right now, and that this is a good time to maybe coalesce bipartisan support on just maintaining the integrity of our elections, and perhaps in the process you find ways to also increase voter turnout and make it easier to vote.
Right. Do you know yet which committees you will be assigned to, or is that later on?
No, I am now in the process of putting forth my request, and I request 3 committees, and I mean, you know, we'll see.
Yeah, okay. You're new.
I'm new. Bottom of the totem pole.
Right.
So, any other questions?
It looks like you're.
No, I think this one from Sabina.
Yeah. Oh, is there one from Sabina?
Oh, the voucher bill. No, I don't. From what I'm hearing, people are not thinking that the voucher bill is going to resurface this year. Although it wouldn't surprise me, but people are saying that they don't. I just got off the phone with Jeff Yarbrough and was asking him that very question. And I trust Jeff. I think Jeff has a really, really strong, first of all, really bright guy. And secondly, a really strong inside scoop on what's going to go on during this next session. And he doesn't think it will. So.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Is anyone else? Anyone else have a question? Want to speak up?
Madeline,
Yeah,
I hate to talk more than once because everybody else is so shy. I can't believe this group.
I know it's a shy group this morning.
But I do have one little thing to add about vouchers. I agree that it'll be very surprising if any serious effort to do any tinkering with the voucher bill. I don't think they're going to try to expand it this year or certainly contract it. But it's worth noting that that's just this year.
Yeah.
You know, that it was passed with the assurance to all the people voting for it that it would never be in their counties. And our Attorney General argued in the Supreme Court trying to overturn, well, whatever court it was, I'm tired today. You know, when he was tasked with the issue of why is it just these 2 counties and not the others, he said, well, this is just a start. It's going to be in all of them. So that's our government's official position on that it is a step and a step only. But I don't think it'll happen this year.
Yeah, well, I think that that's partially, and I don't mean to speak out of turn here because I need to do more homework on this, and you might know better than I do, partially what the adequacy lawsuit's about. I think that the argument is that that's unfair. And so I need to look into that, but just rest assured on that issue that or maybe some people here are for vouchers. I don't know, but I will be opposed to a voucher program because I feel
Yeah.
that it skims money off the top of our funds for special and takes money away from our public schools. So.
And Heidi, I would say that is the official position of the League of Women Voters of Tennessee, is that we have a policy opposing vouchers for exactly that reason, that we actually believe in adequacy of funding for public education.
Great. Yeah, that's where I am too. All right. Well, it was really great to talk with you. I hope you all have wonderful holidays. I hope that none of us have a year like we had this last year. Next year.
Amen.
Oh my gosh. We need a good year, and hopefully this will be an opportunity for all of us to appreciate it even more when some of the normal things return, although I don't think things will ever be the same. So.
Well, Heidi, thank you so very much for your time. We know how precious that is. And you also have a wonderful holiday, and may you have a calm start to 2021.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, everyone who came.
Everyone. Thanks.
Take care. Happy holidays.
You too. Bye-bye.